From the top. And I'm off mute. And okay. Good morning, everybody. We are Daf Samach Test, a few lines from the top. Now, yesterday we had a bit of a complicated daf, and towards the end of the daf, and really one of these intense sugyas about Yush and whether Yush is Kona or whether Yush is not Kona. We had a machlokas. Of Yochanan and Reish Lakish. We had a machlokas of Yochanan and Reish Lakish in yesterday's daf. And one of the things that ultimately came to light, it was ironic, it was a kasha on Reish Lakish that we brought from a memra of Rav Yochanan. But this was obviously a famous thing that everyone agreed to, and the idea was that if there was Gezel, Belonis, Yaishu Havailim, Shnehem Enam Yichon Lahakish. So again, our example that we were saying yesterday, right? John is the Ganav, right? So John steals something from me. I'm the victim, right? So this was the halacha that we really need to get down. It's really going to be important for the entire daf. So John steals something from me, and I don't do yish. Both John and me cannot make this item hektish. John can't make it hektish because it's not his, right? And I can't make it hektish, even though I'm the rightful owner, because it's Eino Bershuso. That was the halacha. And what came out, and this is also going to be critical for today, this halacha is not focused on hektish. It's really more that neither me or John can affect any sort of transaction. We can't sell it. We can't make it hefker, right? Again, John, because it's not his, he's a ganiv. And even me, because it's not in my reshus. What does it mean that it's not in my reshus? It's not literally that it's in John's house. It's the point is when John is a ganiv, even if he doesn't own the item, he still has certain responsibilities towards the item, meaning if something were to happen to it, John would be responsible. And because of that, I lose some status of philus, and I can't sell the item, I can't be makdish the item, I can't make it hefker, all of that. That was Rav Yochanan's halacha, a critical halacha that's going to really be like the entire thing of today's daf. How did Reish Lakish get out of this question yesterday? He said, I have another Mishnah somewhere that shows that someone else holds something different. What was that Mishnah? It had to do with the Kerem Ravai, if you recall. And Tsunuim over there, they would say that they had Kerem Ravai in their backyard and people would come and steal it. And they would say, at the end of the day, all the people that stole my Kerem Ravai, I don't want them to be nichshel. They have to eat their Kerem Ravai in Yerushalayim. And they don't live in, this person doesn't live in Yerushalayim, he lives in Tveria. So he says, I'm going to make everything that everyone took, I'm going to be quoted onto money, and then I'll take the money and I'll bring it to Yerushalayim. And the raya was clearly this Kana doesn't hold like Rav Yochanan, because if it was the grapes were already stolen, how could this guy be quoted the thing? So that was the back and forth yesterday. Rav Yochanan's halacha and how Reish Lakish got out of it. What the Gemara is going to do today
was he owed it before?
No, after. That was the whole point. After.
There's in the Chofetz Chaim story, it's probably a story about somebody comes to their house to steal something and as they're running away, right? He said, it's not mine. It's simple.
Same idea, yeah.
But how could the Chofetz Chaim do that?
Oh, against Rav Yochanan. Maybe he relied on this other Mishnah. But the reason why it's going to come up today, and it's going to come up right at the beginning of the daf, and again, this is critical, is that apparently Rav Yochanan always paskins like a Stam Mishnah. And this Mishnah of the Tznuin and the Kerem Ravai was a Stam Mishnah. So what the Gemara is going to ask is, I don't understand, we have a Sira in Rav Yochanan. On the one hand, you've got Rav Yochanan's halacha. On the other hand, he paskins like the Stam Mishnah that says not like it. Okay, so with that background, let's dive right in. The Gemara says, fifth line of the top of Samach Tes Amid Aleph. Gufa, Amar Rav Yochanan, Gezel Belonis Yaishu Havailim. If you have Gezel, again, the Gemara doesn't say it, but it's John. John is the Gan, right? So Gezel Belonis Yaishu Havailim. If you have Gezel and the original victim, right, didn't do Yish, Shnehem Einam Yichon Lahakish. Both of them can affect a kedushin. Zel Levishein Shalo. John, because it's not his. Vizel Levishein Bershuso, and even the innocent victim in all this, it's not in his rishos. But the Gemara says, Umi Amar Rav Yochanan Haki. Did Rav Yochanan really say this halacha? Amar Rav Yochanan halacha kestam Mishnah. We know that Rav Yochanan always paskins like a stam Mishnah, and we have this Mishnah that we're about to quote in full from Eiser Sheni. So the Gemara is going to now quote the full Mishnah. We only need really the last line, but we'll just do the whole Mishnah. Utanan Kerem Ravai. Let's say a person in his field had Kerem Ravai. Now again, people might come and they might come and nibble on your grape, but they're really not allowed to because it's Kerem Ravai. So how you mitzayin and also because adama. what people would do is they would put clumps of earth all around their Kerem Ravai, and Simana Ki Adama. And the siman would be that these grapes are kind of like the earth. Ma Adama Ikahanamina. Just like when it comes to Adama, if you're willing to put in the effort, you can ultimately get the Hana. Rashi says, Acherzman, B'charisha, Uzriya, Uktira. The point is, earth symbolizes this stuff isn't off limits. You just have to put in the work and you have to be patient. And then, no, I'm good.
What's the word? Kizuda?
I guess it's like pieces, clumps. I don't know, clumps. Kuzuzas Adama, Simana Ki Adama, Ma Adama Ika Namina, Apai, so too the Karam Ravai, Nami Ki Mafrika, Shari Lasuni Mina. As long as you're willing to put in the work and be patient, you can either be quoted as money, you can bring it to Shalim. The point is, this produce is not totally off limits, it's just you can't eat it right now. Vishal Arla, let's say you had produce in your field that was Arla, so this is much more serious. You can't do anything with it for the first 3 years. So how would they signal to the passerby this is Arla and it's off limits? It's Becharasis. You would put shards of like pottery, like broken pottery or whatever it is. And Simana, what's the siman? Just like when you have broken pieces of pottery, there's really not much you can do with it. It's broken, you got to throw it out. Same with this Arla. Even if you were to steal it, you can't eat it. It's Arla. So that was their way of kind of signaling to the passerby, don't munch on this Arla. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. Vishal Kavaros, let's say a person, Lo Alenu, who had to bury someone on his property. And again, in those days, it wasn't that easy. And you didn't need to tell people that you got to watch out for this kever, right? Kohanim, whatever it is. So what do? The Sid, you would put limestone. Simana de chiber ka'atzamos, like white, like bones or whatever it is. Ooh, mam clever shofech. The Gemara says, I guess you mix this lime with water or whatever it is, you make some solution. Face, so it's even more white. Again, you got to clearly show what these kfarim. Okay. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel comments on this first part of the Mishnah. Why are we like so concerned about the people stealing your Kerem Ravai in the Arla? This is all happening b'shviyas the hefker. This is all happening in the Shemitah year when none of it's stealing. All of your produce is hefker. Therefore, it makes sense that someone would come through the field and start taking your stuff. So you got to signal to the people that this is Kerem Ravai, this is Arla. I mean, you don't just steal my grapes. But in years 1 through 6 of the Shemitah cycle, like, what are you so concerned about? Let them steal your stuff and choke on it and die, right? Like, what are you so concerned about the people stealing your produce? Let them get the Avera too, But, and this is really the part that we need, but the people that really went, that snuin, they were manichan amos, but omrim, kol hanilka nidam They would say, and we saw this yesterday, they would say at the end of the day, listen, I get that there are ganavim out there and that they should do their kapara and they should daven and all that. But I don't want them to be nichshol in this added avera of Kerem Ravai. So I will do my small part. I will put money out. I'll be toda the Kerem Ravai, and therefore, they'll come to me Erev Yom Kippur, but at least they won't have to deal with this other isser of Kerem Ravai. But the bottom line is, this is a major kasha on Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan, you always pass him like a Stam Mishnah. Here we have a Stam Mishnah that says that when a person is a victim of theft, even though the stuff was already stolen, it's not in his rishus, still he has the ability to affect a transaction. He can affect a chilul on this Kerem Ravai. But Rav Yochanan said that when you're a victim of a theft, you can't affect a transaction because it's in a rishuso. So how do we understand this contradiction in Rav Yochanan? So the Gemara says, maybe I'll tell you it's not a Stam Mishnah. Man Tana Tznuin, who is the Tana of this Mishnah? It's Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. If you recall, through the Mishnah, we kind of had a Reisha, and then Rav Shimon ben Gamliel made a comment, and then we had the comment of the Tznuin. So when you read the Mishnah, it sounds like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel is just kind of adding some gloss on the first part of the Mishnah, and the Tznuin is the Stam Mishnah. But the Gemara is saying, maybe it's not a Stam Mishnah, maybe it's Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, and that way it's no longer a Stam Mishnah. If it's no longer a Stam Mishnah, it's not really a kasha on Rav Yochanan, because the entire kasha on Rav Yochanan is premised on the fact that Rav Yochanan always paskins like a Stam Mishnah. If this is not a Stam Mishnah, then Rav Yochanan doesn't have to paskin like it. And now, so in this Mishnah, the line before said Rav Shimon Gamliel Omer, he was going on a different part of the Mishnah. But it happens to be at the way end of the daf. We'll get back to this question because it's going to play itself out. What is a Stam Mishnah? But so that's maybe how the Gemara is trying to wiggle out of this by saying, listen, it's not a Stam Mishnah, it's really Rav Shimon Gamliel. The problem is, it doesn't help us at all, because the Gemara says, Amar Rav Bar Amar Rav Yochanan. We have another statement of Rav Yochanan that says that Kol Makom Shoshana Rav Shimon ben Gamliel can be Mishnah Seinu any time Rav Shimon Gamliel says something in a Mishnah, halacha kamoso, we always paskin like him. Chutz me'arev etzidon v'rayach ronan. There are 3 examples in all of Shas. I think all of Shas. In all of Shas, whenever Rav Shimon Gamliel paskin something, we always paskin like him, right? With the exception of 3 examples. So this is a line that comes up every now and again. And you always say, like, I don't know what these 3 examples are. So Arev is a sugya in Bava Basra that we'll get to when we do. Rayach Rona is a sugya in Sanhedrin. We'll get to it when we do. Sidon is actually a sugya in Gittin that sounded familiar. So I tried to look it up. And the Art Scroll says it's a Mishnah on Daf Ayin Daled, right? Which is the Maisa B'Tidon with Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. The interesting thing is, if you look at Rashi here, he seems to be quoting something else. So I can tell you the Mishnah on Ayin Daled, but that doesn't, it's unclear to me what the actual story is. But the Maisa of Tidon from Ayin Daled that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel commented on was a story, if you recall, of a man saying to a wife, here is your get, Almanasta, you give me a fancy bracelet, and she happened to lose the bracelet. And the question was, can she pay him money? Or is he makbid on the bracelet? That was a machlokas chachamim Rav Shimon Gamliel. Apparently, we always pass on like Rav Shimon Gamliel, with the exception of these 3 instances. Back to what we need, we're not really helped, because either we got a stam Mishnah, and therefore Rabbi Yochanan needs to pass on like it, or it's Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, and Rabbi Yochanan needs to pass on like it. Either way, this Mishnah contradicts Rabbi Yochanan's halacha. So that's kind of our problem right now. So the Gemara said, Amri, just edit the Mishnah a little bit. Don't say that it's new and said at the end of the day, whoever took my produce. They're talking in the morning. They're saying whoever is going to take the produce, so they drop money in the field, and they say whoever is going to take my produce, this produce should be mechulal on my money. Now this fixes the problem, because Rabbi Yochanan's whole problem was, once someone stole my stuff, I can no longer be mechulal. Now no one stole my stuff yet. Now we are pre someone stealing my stuff, and this can make it all work. But the Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan hachi. But again, I don't think this answer will work. Why not? Well, Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan says somewhere else, Snuin, this halacha of the Mishnah of the Snuin, V'Rav Dosa and the Tana Rav Dosa, Amr Davarecha, they both said the same thing. So what is this Rav Dosa? Rav Dosa, Nilkad Ka'amar. And we know for sure that Rav Dosa was talking about a situation where it was the end of the day. The Tanya, because we have a Brisa. It's very similar to the situation of the Karam Ravai, but a little bit different. So we'll speak it out outside first. This is dealing with the situation of leket. So imagine, none of us are farmers, but imagine you've got a field and you have certain matnos maniim, right? Leket, shifa, peah. Leket is when you've got certain sheaves that I guess fall through the process or whatever it is. As long as it's a certain amount, the aniyim are allowed to take it. Rashi gets into it a little bit, but I guess, and again, none of us are farmers, I guess it's not that clear in the field if something constitutes leket or not. Is it 1 or 2 stalks? Is it a little bit more stalks? No one really knows. And the aniyim also, they can make an honest mistake and they can take something that's not leket. So homeowners, they were nervous about this, so they would try to make it a little bit easier for the aniyim that whatever they take is not going to be theft. So the Tanya, so that we have a Brisa.
Basically what it is the farm workers go through and they're harvesting whatever they harvest.
Yeah.
Whatever they leave, either because it wasn't fully ripe or too small or.
But there's a very specific quantity.
There's stuff there that was left. So the aniyim can go and take it.
But it's a very specific quantity, whether something constitutes leket or it doesn't constitute leket. That's the problem. If it's a little too much and it's not leket, then the aniyim are stealing the balabais stuff. So the Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Shachris in the morning, balabais omed ba'omer kol sheyilkatu aniyim hayom yehei hefker. Whatever the aniyim end up taking today is hefker. Meaning he understands that they might take something that's not quite leket, and they might take a little too much, but he's going to be mochel.
Are they doing? Forget what the term is. They're like, what are they doing mentally? Is it the same as the cases we had before, where they're being mafkir?
Yes, this balabais is being mafkir, not being mechul. This is not Meister Sheni. This is not. This is not term Ravai. This is straight up.
So if they take from what it's not fair, is then they then deduct it from the other, or this is an add-on?
This is a totally different case, right? So we've got a balabais who's got a field, and aniyim are allowed to come in and take leket.
Right?
So that's what they're attempting to do. The problem is, if the aniyim by mistake take a little too much, then it's not leket and it's stealing.
So my question is, the leket that was set aside for them. Is this in addition to
Yeah.
it, or does the Valabais then deduct it?
I don't know, but I don't know. I think whatever's leket is properly the aniyim.
Elu Devarim Shalem shear is one of the things. So there's no shear, that's why I asked that question.
Your
Hapeya.
paya, that's not leket. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was included in leket.
Yeah, so
Paya is
I don't
different.
know. I don't know, but
Paya is the-
leket, there's very much a shear. Yeah.
I didn't know.
I think it's 2 shibalim or something, which again is just difficult to. Yeah, if you look at Rashi, Reb Dosa, the Indian leket, Katsir, Kamairi, the Kaimalan Shnei, Shibolin leket, but Shalosh is Eno leket. So again, what is 2 sheaves or 3 sheaves? And none of this is all a little bit lost on, certainly on me, but on us who don't live in this agricultural economy. Either way, Rabbi Yehuda would say that you would make this proclamation in the morning, and that worked. Reb Dosa Omer, Le'itose Erev Omer. In the evenings, people would say this, meaning Kol Shalaktu Aniyim, whatever the Aniyim took, yeh Hefker. What's the problem? The problem is that Rav Yochanan very clearly said that this halacha of the Tnuin is just like Rav Dosa's version of this halacha. Rav Dosa was clearly talking about where he said this at the end of the day, which means that Tnuin must also be saying that the Kerem Ravai is mechulel at the end of the day, and we're back to where we started. This is the kasha on Rav Yochanan, because again, Rav Yochanan said that once something is stolen, you shouldn't be allowed to do this. So again, we have this kasha on Rav Yochanan. But like Mara says, what it very often does is Epoch. Just switch the shitas of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Dosa. Epoch to Rabbi Yehuda to Rabbi Dosa, Rabbi Dosa to Rabbi Yehuda. And therefore, we'll have Rabbi Dosa saying that in the morning, this is what the Balabai said. If Rabbi Dosa said that this happens in the morning, now the Tznuin can also say that this happened in the morning. And now we don't have a steer up to Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan's halacha is only when something has already been stolen. Both the Tznuin and Rabbi Dosa are referring to a case where it was earlier in the morning when nothing was stolen yet. But the Gemara says something, if you just kind of stop for a second, we had a stira, not even a stira, we had a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. And because of that, we had to edit a Mishnah, which, okay, that we were going to have to do. And then we totally edited a brisa to flip around the sheets of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Dosa. The Gemara says, what are you doing? Right? Amai afchas masnisa, why are you flipping around the brisa? Afcha le Rabbi Yochanan. Just say that Rabbi Yochanan, the Ema Tznuin, Rabbi Yehuda, the Omer Davar Echad. The problem was Rabbi Yochanan said that the Tznuin said like Rabbi Dosa. And we're flipping around a brisa to make Rabbi Yochanan work. Why don't you just say that we were mistaken in what Rabbi Yochanan said? And Rabbi Yochanan really said that the Tznuin said like Rabbi Yehuda. Now you can keep the brisa intact, which we much prefer to do, and everything can still make sense. Why are we flipping around a brisa to make Rabbi Yochanan work? But the Gemara says, no. Amri lo sagir lo mesapechas masnisa. The whole brisa, we knew something was off at the brisa. Why? The bahamas nisin ktani the isla Rabbi Yehuda breira, because the way the brisa has it, it sounds like Rabbi Yehuda holds of breira. V'shaminan leila Rabbi Yehuda ba'amad left the breira, and we know that as a general matter, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold the breira. So why did Rabbi Yehuda sound like he held like breira in this thing? What is the Balabai saying? He's saying whatever the aniyim take that's not supposed to be leket, I'm going to make hefker. Now, in the morning, he's not making his entire field hefker. He's just saying that which the aniyim take, should they take more than they were supposed to, that produce will be hefker. Now, if you don't hold if you hold a brera, that makes sense. We can look at the end of the day, see what happened, and that can retroactively put into effect the hefker that I wanted to make in the morning. But if you don't hold a brera, that doesn't work, right? You can make something hefker, or you cannot make it hefker. I can say these things are hefker, or not. I can't say that which, I don't even know what it's going to be. That which the aniyim take, if they take it, that should be hefker. That's only going to work if you hold a brera. We know, and we're going to show, that Rabbi Yehuda does not hold a brera. Therefore, we had to edit the brisa to make Rabbi Yehuda not be the guy talking in the morning. It had to be Rabbi Dosa, and that's how we made the whole thing work. How do we know that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold a brera? Ditnam. This is one of the mishnayos that come up every time brera comes up. So what is this? Mishnah or brisa? Halokech yayin mibein akutim. So a guy goes and he buys wine on Erev Shabbos. Rashi says this is Erev Shabbos ben Hashmashos. So he buys his wine and he needs to be mafresh Trumas and Maestros, right? Omer, the problem is he doesn't have any time. He doesn't have any kalim. He can't do it properly. So Omer, what does he do? He says, Shnei Lugin Shani Asid Lahafrish. These 2 Lugin, that I'm going to be mafresh Mati Shabbos when I have the time. Hooray, ain't Truma, that's going to be Truma and Asara Meiser Rishon, and then the 9.8 or rounding up to 10, that now it needs to be Meiser Rishon, and Kes Meiser Sheni, Umeichal, B'Shosa Miyad, Diver Aver. Bottom line, the guy's got a massive jug of wine, right? And he can't be mafresh Trumas Meisters right now, but he needs to make Kiddush, and it's really, really, really close. Right.
What about Yain Matzah?
Maybe it's cooked.
Yeah,
Maybe it's great.
I don't know. Well, Kutim also, this could be one of these things where Kutim are carried, right? I don't know. But the point is, the wine clearly needed to be mafresh Trumas and Meisters, and he couldn't. It was already banished mushroom, so there's not a lot of doing. It's still tava. So what's he going to do? So what he can do is he can say, there's, I don't know, 3 gallons in this thing. I'm not going to drink the whole thing. I'm going to put aside some portion of the wine that's going to stay in the bottle. Some portion of the wine is going to be truma, some is going to be meiser, some is going to be this. I'll drink the wine, and then tomorrow night of the leftovers, I'll be mafresh whatever's left, and that'll work. Now that only is going to work if you hold a brera. If you hold a brera, you can say that which I separated tomorrow night was the truma and meisra, trumas and meiser already today. So Reb Meir says this works, but Reb Yehuda, Reb Yossi, Reb Shimon, Ostrin, but Reb Yehuda, guy that we need, and Reb Yossi and Reb Shimon all say that this does not work. So they all hold ein brera, and that's why we have to flip the brisa around to make Reb Yehuda talking about the end of the day, and Reb Doza talking about earlier in the day. But Amri, but the Gemara says, so, we still have a problem. Because why did we have to flip and edit the brisa? We shouldn't have kasha Reb Yehuda ad Reb Yehuda, because we had a problem with Reb Yehuda. The brisa made it sound like he held a brera, but he doesn't hold a brera. Hashtanami, kasha Reb Yochanan ad Reb Yochanan. We still have a problem of Reb Yochanan ad Reb Yochanan. Da'amr Reb Yochanan. We said that Reb Yochanan would say lo teimakol hanilkad alei makol mislaki in the Mishnah of the Tznuin of the Karam Ravai. We edited the language a little bit to say that balabayas doesn't say whoever took my Karam Ravai. Rather, he says whoever's going to take my Karam Ravai, I want this money to be meichel, right? That's what we had to do to edit the brisa, or that was actually a Mishnah, to edit that Mishnah, which would mean that the Tznuin must hold of brera for the same reason, right? They're coming in the morning. They don't know who's going to take what. And they're saying whoever takes this produce, I want the produce that's taken to be mechul on this money. That makes it sound like the Tznuin hold of brera, and if Rav Yochanan paskins like the Tznuim, like the Stam Mishnah, Rav Yochanan would also hold of brera. Alma isle brera. The problem is, Rav Yochanan unless they brera. We know that Rav Yochanan himself does not hold of brera. The Amar of Asiyam, Rav Yochanan, ha'achin shacholku lekuchosein umachziran zelezeh biyovel. So this is another one of those Mishnayos that often, or one of these machlokim, I should say, that often come up in the brera sugyas. Imagine you have an estate. You have a father, lo aleinu, passes away, and he's got 2 sons, and they've got to split their estate. So there's really 2 ways of looking at it, right? Either they were both Yoresh, but they were Yoresh. They just need to go through the process of dividing the assets so that we ultimately know what each of them inherited. And if you held that way, you would say Yesh Brera, meaning they all inherited their 50%, their rightful 50%. We don't know what the 50% is until we go through the distribution process. But once we've gone through that process, now everyone got theirs through a Yerusha. Or you can say, no, they are making some sort of chiluk, they're making some sort of agreement, and who gets what, but they're treated as if they each contracted with each other. And therefore, what's the nafkamina? At Yovel, are they treated like buyers, where they kind of barter with one another? I get this one, you get that one, and comes along Yovel, we have to go back and forth. Or do we say, no, they're treated like Yarshim, and therefore they don't, even at Yovel doesn't have to go back. The bottom line is Rabbi Yochanan says, Ein Breira, they're treated like Kuchen, not like Yarshim. And therefore what? Therefore, we still are stuck with a bit of a problem. We tried to edit the Mishnah of the Tznuin to make it work with Rabbi Yochanan. The problem is, once you edit the Mishnah that way, that means Rabbi Yochanan should hold Yesh Breira, but we know, as a general matter, Rabbi Yochanan holds Ein Breira. So we're a little stuck right now. We're back to really our initial question, which is Rabbi Yochanan has this halacha, and he conflicts with the Stam Mishnah of the Tznuim. So the Gemara says, Olam kol hanilkad. You're right. Don't edit that Mishnah and keep it that the homeowner, the Karam Ravai owner, is saying kol hanilkad. Whoever stole my stuff earlier today, I'm going to be mechul the stuff onto money. But so how do we answer up this kasha on Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan Stama Achrina Ashkach. Rabbi Yochanan found another Stam Mishnah somewhere, and that's what he's relying on. Meaning, you have a Sira and Stam Mishnayos. Rabbi Yochanan used to paskin like one of them. He paskins like the other one, not this one. What is this other Stam Mishnah? Now it all comes back. This is our Mishnah, and the first Mishnah in Perek Meruba. Sanan Ein Hagonev Achar Haganev Mishan Tashlume Kevel. The case is where John, our Ganev, he steals from me, and then Alan Gershman, who now just runs away, it's classic, right? He now steals from John. The Mishnah says that Alan Gershman doesn't pay kefil. He only has to pay the Karens. The Gemara says, Amai, why should the second Ganav not have to pay kefil? It makes sense to me that Alan wouldn't have to pay John because the Gone of the base ish, Ganav. Because the pasuk of kefil talks about stealing from the rightful owner, and John was never the rightful owner. But shouldn't Alan Gershman at least pay me, the rightful owner, the kefil? Why not? This is Rav Yochanan's halacha, and that's why. So that's the Stam Mishnah, the first Mishnah of Meruba. That's another Stam Mishnah, and therefore Rav Yochanan can paskin like the Mishnah in Meruba. He doesn't have to paskin like the Mishnah of the Tznuin. But the Gemara says, "Umay chazis the azal basar ha'histama la'avid ki ha'istama tznuin." Meaning, how do we know which one to pick? There's two different Stam Mishnahs. So why is he automatically picking the Stam Mishnah in Bawakama? Why not pick the Stam Mishnah of the Tznuin? So the Gemara says, Mishum didn't say because he felt that Mishnah was supported by a pasuk. The pasuk says, "Bish yakdishus beiso kodesh Hashem." Pasuk says that when a person is makdish his house, it's takdish ma beiso bershuso. It sounds like you can only be makdish things like your house that are in your rishus. Av kol bershuso. So the bottom line is Rabbi Yochanan picked one Stam Mishnah over the other because he felt that there was more support in the psukim. Amar Abai, this is just a total postscript. Amar Abai, Ilav the Amar Rabbi Yochanan Snuin Rav Dosa Amar Davar Echad. Right? One of the things that Rabbi Yochanan said throughout this daf was that the halacha of the Snuin, right, with this Karam Ravai, and the halacha of Rav Dosa by Leket, that they're saying the same thing. If not for the fact that Rav Yochanan said that Snuin and Rav Dosa are saying the same thing, Havamina, I would have thought that maybe there was a bit of a machlokas. Meaning Snuin is Lula Rav Dosa. The Snuin who did this whole workaround for Karam Ravai, they would agree to the halacha of Rav Dosa, that you do this whole workaround when it comes to Leket. But Rav Dosa, less Leila Snuin. But Rav Dosa wouldn't necessarily hold of the Snuin. And the Gemara explains. Snuin is Lula Rav Dosa. The Snuin would agree to Rav Dosa. Uma beganiv. If even when a person steals your karam rabai, they literally steal your fruit. Still, the chacham are going to make a takana that are going to allow you to make it better for these ganavim by retroactively being mechul the fruit onto money. Aniyim tzrichel memar. So in Rav Dosa's case, no one did anything wrong. The aniyim thought they were taking what was theirs, and still, I mean, they made a mistake. So for sure, if you're going to allow this workaround in the case of proper ganavim, you'll definitely allow this workaround in the case of aniyim. But for Abdosa, less late it's new, but maybe the other way doesn't work. Meaning aniyim who the Abdullah Rabbanat Takanta, Aval Ganav lo Abdullah. Maybe Abdosa will say that I will let this workaround work in the case of aniyim who don't realize they're doing anything wrong, but I'm not necessarily going to allow it in the case of proper ganavim who are just walking around in someone's fields and stealing their grapes. Amar Rava, Ilav the Amar of Yochanan Snuin Rav Dosa Amar Davar Echad. Hava Amina, kind of a similar idea. If not for the fact that Rav Yochanan told me that Snuin and Rav Dosa are in agreement, Hava Amina, I would have thought they are not necessarily in agreement, because I would have thought, Man Tana the Snuin, who is the Tana of the Snuin? It's Dafka Rav Meir. It's Dafka Rav Meir. And Lav Amar Rav Meir, didn't Rav Meir has a famous shita. We actually did this not too long ago in Gittin. He says, in Kedushin, that Mammon is Meiser Gavoahu. He says that Meiser Sheni is actually Mammon Gavoa. Notwithstanding the fact that Meiser Sheni generally doesn't belong to you, it's Mammon Gavoa. The Torah put it in your reshus to allow you to do a pidyon. The pasuk says, Gaal Yigal Ish Maestro Chamishi So Yosef Alav. And the point is, it calls it Maestro, Karya Rachmana Maestro, Umosef Chomesh. So even though Meiser is not yours, it's Mammon Gavoa, the Torah treated it as if it was yours, put it in your reshus for this purposes of making a pidyon and requiring the chomesh. So Karam Ravai Namis, Karam Ravai, which is treated like Ma'aser Sheni in a lot of respects. Gamar, Kodesh, Kodesh Meiser, you have Agzera Shava, Kodesh, Kodesh Meiser, Sivhacha, Kodesh Hilulim, by Karam Ravai, the pasuk uses the word Kodesh, Uksiv Gabi Meiser, B'chol Meiser, Ha'aretz, Mizara, Ha'aretz, and Priya, Ha'etz, Lashem Hu, Kodesh, Ma Kodesh, the Marsh is very wordy. Ma Kodesh, Uksiv Gabi Meiser, Afagav the Mammon Gavoh, and Imptia Okmirachmana B'Shusei, even though it's really Mammon Gavoh, the Torah put it in your Rishus, Af Hai Kodesh, so too this Kodesh by Karam Ravai, Nami, the Chsiv Gabi Karam Ravai. Apagav the lav mamon the dehu linachula ok mirachmana bershusei daha ki ese bershusei nami halav the dehu. Even though it's in his rishus, it's not really his. Bahamati machal, but still he's able to be mechel. Mishum hachi mati machal avakabi leket. But the point is, this would all be shitas Rav Meir that would say that dafka by meister, dafka by karam Ravai, a person, even though it's not in your rishus, you can still be mechel. Aval gabi leket. But by leket, came into Mamona Dide, since this is really properly my produce, ki say when it's in my rishus, hudamatzi mafkele, that's when I'm able to be mafkele. Kilasa say once the anim have already taken it, lo matzi mafkele, I wouldn't be able to be mafkele. And one last postscript, then we'll get to the top of the next stop. Amar Ravina ilav, the Amar of Yochanan, Snuin Rav Dosa, Amar Davar Echad, had Rav Yochanan not said that the Snuin and the Rav Dosa are saying the same thing, Hava Mina Man Tana Tznuin. I might have thought, who is the Tana of this Stam Mishnah of the Tznuin? Rav Dosi. It is Gufa Rav Dosa. Tikshli Stam Mishnah Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan Stam Yichidai Lo Amar. And the reason why we would say that is again, what was going back to the first thing we talked about today. We had a kasha. We said, Rav Yochanan, don't you normally paskin like a Stam Mishnah? And the Stam Mishnah isn't saying like you. I could have answered the question easily by saying it's not a Stam Mishnah, it's Rav Dosa. And then once I know I have an author of the Stam Mishnah and it's Rav Dosa, it's no longer a kasha on Rav Yochanan because it would no longer be a Stam Mishnah. And really getting to kind of the point